حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's make dua and start inshallah. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma tassalam, wa minka assalam, tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa shafi'ina wa habibina Maulana Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. Allahumma rabbana innana amanna faghfir lana dhunubana wa qina adhaban nar. Rabbana innana amanna faghfir lana dhunubana wa qina adhaban nar. Allahumma rabbana yassir wa la tu'assir wa tam bil khair wa bika nasta'in ya fattah. فسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Inshallah, we'd like to continue our topic Islam and Muslims in the modern world, challenges faced by youths in our modern society, and we had mentioned from our last class the topic of discussion was in regards the relationship of our young boys and girls in their connection in that act of where you have same-sex marriages and same-sex relationship and so on. That we mentioned there how this has become a norm in society, and the dangers of this is that we are now looking at some of the problems that derive out of this. That we know that this act is one of those acts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown total distaste for and is against the commands of Allah. But nonetheless, we live in a society, such a society that accepts this type of thing. So on page 47, we look at some of the disease that comes about by the relationship that one would have in such a situation. And we say from such a situation, one of those things that is derived is AIDS. And we mentioned about AIDS in the last that there is no cure for this disease till this present date. And it is contracted and spread out of this same-sex relationship. It is one of those things that is mentioned in the Quran that it has an adhab and a punishment. But one of the punishment that we can see that, some people will say, well, not everybody is being punished. Some people get this by mistake. Allahu alam, Allah knows best because of medical reasons. They probably get contaminated and so on. But majority of the cause of the disease and the purpose it exists and continue to exist is because of this same-sex relationship. And it have those women who will be carrying this disease as well, and males who will be carrying this disease as well. And it is on the rise, I've mentioned from the last class, that it has shown that in our research, that even recently Trinidad mentioned that there are a certain rise in the level of the number of cases they are seeing in people being affected or infected with AIDS. We also talk about gonorrhea and syphilis as some of the other disease that is mentioned, and genital ulcers that also develop out of this. And this disease is caused of inflammation and the lymphatic glands. It also gives rise to swelling, right, to that chronic festering of the traumas, inflammation of the urethra, and severe pain to the joints and swelling of the limbs. That is one of the other diseases that is prone or connected to this particular thing as well. Hepatitis B, symptoms include fever, fatigue, nausea, and jaundice. It results in chronic hepatitis or liver cancer. It's also a disease that is derived out of this particular type of activity. Apart from this, we know that this is an immoral deed, will be what? Committed openly, and that someone will do such an action, commit such a deed, such an action, a relationship that is totally immoral. In our society today, it is openly spoken. And recently, just this last week, Thursday or Friday, in Canada and the United States of America, there were students in secondary schools, or students at the average age of 16 or 17 years, who had a protest within the school because they wanted to change the sex education in the school, which now presently has open sex education in terms of this type of relationship. Same-sex marriage types of things, same-sex relationships and so on, is now taught within the schools. and they are now thinking about changing it. But there was a protest which was broadcast throughout on BBC and throughout the part of the world regarding this particular thing. While this was happening, sometime last week, Friday, I think it was also, that this particular incident took place. For they wanted this to continue. In other words, this type of relationship to continue. That they shouldn't ban this because the schools and the parents are protesting that they should go back to an older method of what they had for education in relationship to this type of particular sex marriage and sex education. But this didn't happen. What happened instead? The children protested against it. Those who are of this particular nature and type within the school system. So it is rampant within the school system and the knowledge there. Not that we are trying to say condemn, but what you're trying to say is to bring to the awareness as to what level it has reached in society and throughout the world. So if we think in our community, in our society, in our schools that such knowledge of such things are not there, then we are thinking too far away. We should be more conscious of what is happening. So this level of immoral deeds, is open and it's widespread. Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the first thing to be raised from the ummah will be khushu, or fear of Allah. And when this happens, until there is not a single person in it with khushu, no person will remain with a level of shame, a level of fear within them, that they fear Allah. There is some level of awe, some level of respect. And that even boils down to the level of clothes that we would wear, the type of clothes that we would wear. All of these things contribute towards that direction. Nowadays, long ago we see young men who used to dress in tight clothing. We used to say, there's a different, they kind of shaky. Today, every single boy wants what? Tight clothing. And even going, even beyond the elder people as well. Now, that is the trend in society today. What does this lead to? That even a boy wearing a pink shirt or a pink color or different types of things, long time we used to make judgment about. Today, that is what? Style. So it leads to a different type of environment, thinking, and a normal acceptance in society. So what we used to never accept today in society, it is accepted, and it is a style, it is a norm, it is okay. And why should we, become, as I say, when we would speak, it to become as though we are the ones who are condemning and disliking such an action. But the fact is, from a spiritual point of view, from the point of view of what is real akhlaq and character that is found within the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and mainstream religion, even in Christianity and Judaism, it would have been something that is prohibited. So he mentions like this, and men will look like women and women will look like men. And that is something that is normal in our society today. That no one pays heed to that. It is acceptable. I did not believe this, requires any explanation, but you can do that search and check for yourself of gay pride parades in the US to see many examples of this. And I don't think we have to look so far again, because it happened right here in what? Trinidad. That they had such gay parades in Trinidad as well. So we don't have to look anywhere far to prove it otherwise. We ourselves are part of the environment where such things actually happen. So, yes, if they can reach so far and they are continuously fighting for laws within the state to get approval for further freedom to live this particular type of life. And once we allow such things to continue to happen around us, not that I'm saying that we should go and destroy anybody. What I'm saying is that once we see such things happening, we have to prepare ourselves for the inevitable end and the further fitna and corruption to take place within our society. Yes, this is something that will happen before the end of time. So some of the plausible reasons why would such things in our society they happen, and why they say, well, we should give weight it. So they, when you do something wrong, you make an excuse. You don't say, well, why you do that? You ask the child, well, why you do that for? And they'll give you an excuse, well, why it happened. So the society today and intelligent and intellectuals today of our society have also made possible excuses or reasons or plausible reasons why this should happen, why this is this way. So same-sex attraction disorder, SSAD it is called. So the scientific term used by sociology and in this field is telling you that this problem is a same-sex attraction disorder. Don't just call them gay people or same-sex people or that type of thing. Don't call them, just call them hen and all different kind of terms we would use for them. We shouldn't use those terms, or a lesbian or something like that. We should use that they are SSAD, that they are same-sex attraction disorder. And that is what it is. So use the terminology that is used for it. And it is out of this reason that they are weak masculine and feminine identity. So they're not strong enough to show their masculinity nor their femininity, and they are attracted to the same sex. This is the plausible excuse, one of the reasons. So another major cause of SSAD is when a father, and this is how they nice up this whole situation, is when a father is perceived by a child as distant, critical, selfish, angry, or an alcoholic. This produces yet another crucial conflict in the development of a boy's masculine identity. So, their belief is that this distance the child, when they see a child behave, because they see the father started to behave bad when he is drunk, so he don't want to be a boy anymore. Nonetheless, their way of showing or reasoning. So as child and adolescents, these men yearn for acceptance, praise, and physical affection from their fathers, but their needs were never met. In other words, the father didn't have time for them, so they didn't do this and they didn't do that. So they say, all right, well, then give up on that male life. Again, this is not what I would see from this excuse, but this is what they put up as a plausible reason. If women, a weak feminine identity leading to same-sex attraction disorder can be caused by mother conflicts, peer rejection, or poor body image. The mother don't look good, she don't dress nice, she don't talk nice, she have problems with other people condemning her as a woman. Then the daughter might see this and say, well, I don't want to be what? In that same kind of field, because she's my mom, so if that could happen to she, then that could happen to me too. So, well, I don't really want to be a lady. Well, that is far from the truth. This, what is mentioned here, that this condition is far more rare than weak masculine identity, and this is why male homosexuality is much more common than female homosexuality, or the same type of relationship. The female role model, the mother, is much more likely to be more affirming and be more giving, to be more nurturing to her daughter than a father to his son. So they're showing it more on the boy side rather than the girl side. But nonetheless, this being a reason is not a reason in any way. If we can look at it carefully and we examine this can even give closeness to what our relationship is like that. If the first human had SSAD from the beginning, it is unlikely that any of us would be alive. So if Adam had this problem, and Adam was the first man and he had nobody to what? He could not look at the next what? Male. But he had a companion made for him who was a female. And that said, looking towards what Allah has created the human beings to and to what we are, is that our relationship is male, female. Allah didn't make male, male. He made male and female. So this in itself tells us that if that was the case, and Adam didn't look at his wife and well, I really don't look at a female, then what would have been the case for all the world's creation today? The fact is that having this disease, or thinking that this is a disease, looking at the condition of the world, then how many of us would have children in the first place if that was a disease or a sickness? But it is out of what is being purported today and feasibly put as an excuse and plausibly as an excuse, so people could use this society. I'll leave the child alone, leave them to be like whatever they want to be. Rather than using our corrective social skills and intellectual skills and our other means to prove and to show masculinity and femininity within society, we allow things to be as it is. Just like we would say, allow people to drink alcohol. Now they're saying, well, pretty soon we start to allow people to what? Smoke marijuana. It is okay to do that just now too. So everything will what? Go by the way and be allowed without proving that these things have danger in them. Which our next topic will be on as we go along. Distrust of the opposite sex. And this is our next situation. This is something that is common in marriage, but they use it as an excuse as well. Distrust of the opposite sex is the second most common cause of SSA, the same-sex attraction disorder, in men, and the most common cause in women. So they use this as the most common cause. In men, feeling of mistrust may develop as a result of a difficult mother relationship or from experiences of betrayal by women. Male children in fatherless homes often feel overly responsible for their mothers as they enter their adolescence. They may come to view female love as draining and exhausting. So they say, if this were to go to take care of a female, well, they might as well be with a male instead of a female. This is what they use as a plausible excuse. But everyone knows once you get married, you don't just get married, but you get involved in a relationship that has always something to happen. So you can't get away from that, you can't run from that. And today it is even more that people can't even stand that in a relationship. There are very much challenges in a relationship today. But if you think that is bad, just as it is like that, if you have a situation where you have the same-sex relationship, man to man, boy to boy, girl to girl, they say have the same problems. In fact, they fight more than a couple would fight. And they are more destructive to each other. All right? So it is worse off there than the case where same-sex, male to male, they really have a man fight. Right? They really don't fight like another fight. High time you really see the real men in them come out to fight. So there are relationships like that. So this understanding that we have, that will not exist. It does. And the conflict should not be cause for that to say, well, because of this happened, I don't want to get married to a woman because I have to bear this burden and see all this exhaustion again. So they want a relationship that is light-hearted and enjoyable, and by default, turn to a male love. Loneliness is another major factor in the development of same-sex attraction disorder in females. Many women experience disillusionment in their search for the right man and may turn to women instead because they don't find the right men for their life, or the right man in their life, male in their life. And this is some of the reasons given for this as same-sex attraction disorder. None of which really adds up, but they say that this can happen and this is what happens. Maybe they would say people confess to this, is they use as a possible reasons why they would do this. So if they're interviewed, some of them may use this as an excuse. As I say, why you ask a child, why are you drinking? They give you a reason or excuse why they're doing it. But knowing that they're doing it for that reason, is it a reason to do it for? Knowing that what you're doing is something is what? Wrong? That is wrong? That is what we have to consider in this case. Whether this is a reason or not. The fact that this is not a reason, those are issues that you are using to bring up a justification. But that cannot be the case because there are many other cases where husband and wife don't have this problem. So if in that case, those children will grow up okay. And if there is a situation where it's like this, is it justification to grow up the other way? It is not. Because that is a situation. That is not the condition for a reason for such a behavior. So in my community, if there are 100 people out of 200 people using marijuana, is that a justification for every one of us to use marijuana or drugs? That is not a reason. It may be what is happening in around and this environment, but it's not a reason for us to continue to use that. So gender identity disorder is the next aspect of it. Gender identity disorder. Gender identity disorder in children regularly leads to same-sex attraction in adolescence. This Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Medical Doctors in DSM-4 of the American Association define gender identity disorder in the children as a strong, persistent, gross gender identification, a discomfort with one's own sex, and a preference for cross-sex roles in play or in fantasies. Now, long ago, we could even draw an example. When we look at what we are saying here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are created, and Allah knows the purpose of creating men and women. When you are a child, you play. So if a young boy decides to play dolly cook, as we would call it, with his sister. If a young boy decides to play dolly cook with his sister and her friends, and they're cooking and they're washing and they're doing whatever they want, and he following along and playing too, does it mean that he is a girl? It means that he is just enjoying himself as a young boy with his family, and we cook and wash too as male home. So it means that we are girl? No. It means that we might give us work to do, but it doesn't mean that we are a girl. Right? The fact is that when you help out in the house, you are more loved because they feel that you're really looking at them and treating them nice. And don't let them feel, so actually let them know that is the way, right? But the essence here is for us to note that doesn't mean that the child growing up like that mean that the child is what? Queer, or has an identity disorder and doesn't know that this is his sister and that he's playing this. He knows the difference. So don't watch the child and say, you know what, that child need to... No. We grew up and we understood those things. And we grow in an environment and we understand that. So for the world to come and tell us otherwise today, that scientifically is a different thing, that when a child explains these type of disorder and associate with other children in a different way, then something is wrong with this child, and this child deserves to have feminine relationship as a male, to go along being like a feminine person. No, that action doesn't require us to be a feminine person, right? So what we learn here is that while this is mentioned here, this is not the reality. This is a reasoning that they give us, a plausible cause, which is not really anything what to do so. But we must know this, because if someone comes and tells us, well, this is what society is teaching us. This is what society is saying is the reason why children are behaving and malfunctioning today. This is not a reason. Because we grew up in an environment like this. We grew up seeing these things with our children. We ourselves sometimes would have probably experienced that. But why we didn't turn? Why use that as a reason now? So this is not part of that way for us. And for more than this, if we look at what is mentioned here, the sign at the end of time is that man will marry men and women will marry women. This is one of the signs that we are seeing, but this is not a reason for this to happen. Yeah. All right? Even this has happened, it's not a reason for that, but this is open fahisha. What we are preaching to our children, as I said from last session, that we are bringing about into society hundreds of movies and television shows and stars and movie stars who are actually of the same type relationship, same-sex relationship, and these are the things that our children are looking at. And these are the behaviors that they are seeing. So if they are seeing their superstars, males, hugging up and kissing on television and in movies, then what would you expect to happen? Right? What would you expect to happen? And you see the females doing the same things in movies. Then they will tell themselves, well, if that is the movie, the objective of the movie is to indoctrinate and infiltrate into the lives of who? Children. And sometimes they'll sit down home, you say, well, I can't send you to the movies because I'm afraid it happen. But right in their home, in their own little phone, seeing the whole movie still. But that is what is being portrayed. And I'm not trying to criticize or condemn what the world is doing, but we must understand the dangers of what is happening out of that. So these plausible excuses is just plausible excuse. But indoctrination has already started. So, you know, like just like we would feel to drink some particular type of soft drink, or that to drink some particular juice, or some particular type of drink when the sun real hot, is because the advertisement tells us when you sit and you walk through the shop, the same thing happen. You know, the drive is there, the move is there, the feeling is there, and the grocery or the supermarkets don't make it easy because they put it right in front of your eye with the brightest light and the most attractive thing to go and take it up and just start to use it. So it is all about the marketing with the enthusiasm to get it going. So this is part of it.
Just now you're getting cooked with marijuana.
I think somebody got locked up in America recently in a church. They had some kind of celebration and they gave everybody marijuana biscuits or something like that. But in that state, they never really have that particular law pass. Subhanallah. So, narcissism and profound selfishness is the next aspect of what we look at here. That narcissism is where persons as a person who is preoccupied with fantasies and unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. There are people like that, you know, they want the perfect thing. Perfection in the mind, the daydreaming and the loss. Some of them, this is what they're saying is a plausible reason for it. For the homosexual narcissist, the goal is the pursuit of pleasure. In other words, he's sick in the head already. So he looking to what? Prey on some other young, beautiful young boy or handsome boy and look at them and then start to what? Try to persuade them in a direction. Alright? So this is also what a person who is sick in the head might do. Okay? Well, this is a situation that is plausible, but you know, this is what happens in society. So whilst they might be sick, it's really what is happening in our society, and they're trying to infiltrate and indoctrinate other young men into this environment. So a certain segment of the homosexual community expresses narcissism by promoting total and absolute sexual freedom. So they're trying to promote their life and trying to show it as beautiful and fantasy, the sickness. So they advocate anonymous sex and extreme sexual behavior that may explain the presence of a high degree of promiscuity in this segment of the population. In this way, homosexuality by reach, you know, it is in that state that it is wrong, and it is such a situation that people who are in this condition, it is not natural. You know, it is not natural. In other words, society today, you can tell the whole world, is this natural? No, this is not natural. Allah didn't make the human being like this. It will never be natural. So this is what is promoted, developed, and created. It is not natural. And hence, because of this, it becomes homosexual. In other words, something that is created by that particular being in that particular way. So, our next reason that they give, which we will close with, is the dysfunctional family. You know, the serial. The fatherless home or the emotionally unavailable father joined with the dominant mother contributes to the development of same-sex attraction. Often where divorce has taken place, the mother portrays her ex-husband in a very negative ways, and consequently the son loses respect for the father. Now, this is one of their reasons, but not really a reason because it doesn't make sense either. In merge or foster families, one notices relationship among siblings, cousins, and neighbors that are compulsive and secretive, and that can foster same-sex attraction. Spouses who verbally abuse one another in front of their children may advertently force the children to take sides, and especially if there is already a distance between a child and a father, a son may begin to see his masculinity in a negative light. That doesn't make no sense really. Because yes, we can understand sarcasm in our marriage and all these different things, the father and the mother having it out. But that is not a reason. We see that in our own homes at times. Some of us at some time point in our life. But it doesn't mean that if they argue that because I see them like that, I think many children, even in a society, when you talk to them, where they have their father and mother having difficult times in a relationship, They love both parents, and they just don't know what they want them to stop arguing and fighting. I don't want to say, well, they look daddy as being the worst person, and I don't want to be a male anymore. They never say that to me yet. At least they don't look towards that direction. So this is not a plausible reason as well, in mention that in that particular way. So at the end of it, even if SSA, same-sex attraction disorder, is genetic, if it is genetic, just if it is still abnormal and counterproductive, not proven to be true. That is the fact of it. Genetically, it is not even proven to be true to the natural reproduction of human species. This is not any way in history that it will be like this. So, for no species can continue existence without having a desire to procreate, and SSAD, same-sex attraction disorder, is averse to this most natural desire of all animals. So if you don't have the correct attraction, then you cannot continue the creation. So the human beings today will not, say, disappear from the earth because of same-sex marriage. Most might happen for the human beings to fall out of the incline, and a generation gap in many societies to take place is because of the fact that men and women today who are married, and even who are not, they decide to only have what? One child or two child. And that causes a total breakdown in society today. The fact is that if we are 1 million and you decide to only make 25 or 250,000 people, and when this 1 million get what? Old, and you expect 25,000, 250,000 people to mind, you think what's going to happen? The fact is that this is really what Allah had made human beings for, that we ought to help one another, which is part of understanding that in the creation of the human beings, we depend on each other. The fact is that if you could drink water in a bottle, you have to know how many people work in the factory who collect the water, prepare the water, the truck that drips the water in the fridge. You go to the parlor, you pay for the water. So many people involved before you could open this bottle and drink some water. All contributing towards one bottle of water. Far less for all the different types of food we eat and the things that we buy and wear and do and all these different things. All because everyone contributes to our well-being. So it's not me because I could buy, but it's because everyone else had did something for me to survive. So a humble recommendation from all of us we should recognize here is that parents bring up a child, be it a boy or a girl. Most parents, before the child is born, they purchase certain items for this child. If they are aware of the gender, they will buy clothing according to the gender. No doubt you'll buy blue or pink or whatever color you like because you know what gender the child is going to be born into, right? No. Most times you're right. If you're not right, well, you end up with blue or whatever color, you end up with wrong gender clothes, but it doesn't make much of a difference. Color is not really the case here as we look at it here. But what we're looking at is that generally we would think like, blue, we look for it boy, pink, girl, whatever it may be like that. But at the end of it, they look at the gender and are aware of the gender. They will buy clothing according to the gender, and they will buy other items, etc., to suit that gender. Likewise, parents long to have children, as most of the time they strive to have a boy child and also a girl child to feel a sense of completeness. You don't want boys alone. You want boys and girls. You don't have boys alone. Say, well, 3 will be boys and 3 will be girls. You won't do that neither. Right? Because if you have 6 boys, it's really 6 boys, not 3 boys and 3 girls. They are all boys. And hence you'll want to have boys and girls. In their desire for children, it is also their desire to find suitable mates of the opposite sex for their children. This is what we are told. Even the Quran tells us, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. For those who have the desire and the fear, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ, who have the desire of meeting their Lord and the fear of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, and they prevent their own desires from falling astray and leading them into all these kind of fancy things and reasons. They protect themselves, then Jannah is their abode. Only because they make that effort. So despite the many plausible reason given above for this behavior, as Muslims, we owe it to our kids and to the Muslim society to support and encourage our children in seeking good friends and guard themselves from individuals and environments that would lead to such behavior. As Muslims, we have to establish good religious and social environments and activities for our youths. Don't leave it for society to give us those solutions today. And if we have within our society and our communities young men and women who have this type of problem and parents are aware of it, don't be ashamed to seek help. Don't be ashamed to get a solution to the problem and get help for your children, because they are in need of it. They are in need of it. So just don't leave it like that. Find a solution. Get someone who can help you, assist them in this. Don't let your children go down the drain without making an effort, inshallah, because it's our responsibility. You just can't cast them aside and say, well, that is the end of me and you. You are getting nothing from me, and whatever it is for you, you're going down to hell, and that is the end of you. No. That is not how we go down the path. We try our best as much as possible as parents. It's a challenging situation that we will be in, but nonetheless, our responsibility is still to our children. They are still our children. Allah has given them to us. Maybe we messed up, or maybe they messed up in their upbringing, but we have a responsibility to try to get help for them and resolve their issues, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us and our communities from such happenings, because it is very, very difficult to really be in that kind of situation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us and our families, inshallah, and our children in particular from these things, and our elders as well in our society from these things, inshallah. Let's make dua, inshallah. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma tassalam wa minka salam, tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. اللهم صل على سيدنا وشفيعنا وحبيبنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. فسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين برحمتك الراحمين آمين.
إني ألقى الإناس في صومي وصلاتي ودعائي للرحمن وجميع الطاعات. وجميع الطاعات. إني ألقى الإناس في صومي وصلاتي ودعائي للرحمن وجميع